I'm Kristen, Ritterbusch, Director of Admissions here at John Wood. Today we're going to talk about the college process from the parent's perspective. We all know that kind of deciding what to do with their next step, with a child's next step, is a big deal, but it's a family decision. And so sometimes we don't talk enough about the parent's role. So
and we can do it because we're a couple parents, I think, right? So you've got one on the cusp of starting this process. I've had two that have gone through it.
College conversations are somewhat constant. And I think that's important too, is it always being part of the conversation. We're kind of at that phase where it's feeling a little overwhelming, which is normal. I've been helping parents and students for 5 years now, but I have gotten so much perspective seeing this process as a parent and with a student in the midst of it. The papers are piling up and the letters that are coming in the mail and the emails and the texts and just kind of trying to narrow down and figure out what you want to do, where we want to go, where we're going to visit, all that.
And you've got time, right? Like at the end of the day, there's time, but you don't feel like there's time. So trying to figure out the pace of those conversations, because sometimes kids are not on the same pace as what parents are. Would that be fair to say?
I think that's probably accurate. And I think that can probably go both ways. Sometimes there's kids that are all about it and parents are like, well, I don't know. Just trying to navigate that is really important. And being aware, we talked about there are certain timelines that are really important to not miss. Your application timelines, your scholarship timelines. Beyond that, you've got flexibility and you've got time, but you don't want to sit around and wait until spring of your senior year to start digging in and figuring out what to do.
It's like going to buy a car. You want to go to the car lot to be able to get an idea of multiple cars. And if you end up at the car lot and everything's gone except one, it kind of eliminates some of that decision-making process. So as you're talking to your daughter that's getting ready to go through this, is anything coming to the top as what seems to be pretty critical or pretty important to it?
So fortunately, she did some job shadowing last year and has figured out she wants to go into nursing, which college is going to help you get to do what, as opposed to just college being a thing that you do because that's just what you're supposed to do after you graduate high school. If it's leading towards a goal, it's a lot easier to kind of narrow in on where that might go. She's decided she doesn't want to go too far away from home. 2 hours is kind of the radius that she's looking at. So we're trying to narrow down where those visits will be.
And I've got two kids. So my first one that went through it, she didn't want to be very far away from home. Wasn't real sure what she really wanted to study. Expenses were a thing. Like that was a conversation part. The transition to college life, like what that was going to look like, was a huge part of it. So she came here actually for a couple of years, and in that process kind of discovered what she wanted to do. And we're moving her into grad school in 2 weeks. So she's getting in her first big girl apartment in a couple of weeks, and she's going to start grad school, and she's picked out her career and kind of knows where she wants to go. My younger one's an athlete, so he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do athletically. So that added another layer to it. So I think there's 100 different reasons why someone can pick a particular place, right? It could be an athletic piece. It could be a financial piece. It could be close to home. Some of my experience says that a lot of times a year out, kids want to go 500 miles away from home. And then they get within the last 4 months, they're like, yeah, maybe I don't really want to move to Seattle. Maybe I want to be a little closer to home. But all those 100 variables, I think it's so important for, like you're doing, is have those family conversations to try to sort out what is. And sometimes kids don't know what's important, and so I think it's our job as people that help to try to pick that out of the conversation. What are the 2 or 3 things that are really important to that person? What do you want to hear from schools and colleges and people? That's important to you as a parent.
How are you going to help support my student or my child? Are you going to help support them? What's there? If they're going to be away from home, what does that look like? If they end up in a struggle of some sort, how are you going to support that? Quality of education. Are they, if nursing specifically, what's your NCLEX pass rate? What kind of program and what are the connections that they are going to make while they're in the classroom? Financially is a really big piece. Like, what is that financial package? And that was really one of the main things that we've talked about, that I may have an idea of what I think is the best option for her. She has some other ideas, but kind of the baseline is I'll support your decision and we'll work through this, but I really do not want you going into a significant amount of debt for your schooling unless it's absolutely necessary. We're not going to go into debt for an experience necessarily.
Yeah. Sometimes it's, I want my kid to go to the school that I went to. Sometimes it's, my kid wants to go to that school because they saw a commercial and they've got a swimming pool in the middle of their common, I mean, so there's a variety of reasons to be able to do it. I think as parents or as influencers, whether that's a grandparent or whether that's a family friend or a neighbor or whatever that is, I think part of our job is to embrace the bells and whistles that kids like and enjoy. In 20 years of talking to families and kids and recruiting and doing all that kind of stuff, it'll change. Their priorities will change through the process at a really, really high level. And as a college, we want ones that choose to be here because they want to be here, because they have a gut feeling when they come on campus, because they know that if I get this degree, they will help me get this job. Because I met somebody on campus that helped me navigate some of the support stuff. So I think as a parent, that was a huge piece for us. When we got on campuses was who were they going to be around? Not necessarily who they were going to get all the help from, but just who were they going to be around? What's the personality of the place? What's the feel? What's the conversations you walk through the halls? Because at the end of the day, as parents, we just want our kids to be in an environment they can excel and find their ceiling. And I think that starts and ends with the people that they're being surrounded with.
This is not one and done conversation, right? This is not like we're going to have a big sit down at the dinner table and then we're done. Check. It's all these micro conversations. And some of what I'm seeing, especially through my daughter, is that they just feel like they have to decide so many things all at once. And so by having those micro conversations, and waiting until they bring it up, because they're going to bring it up. Right. The biggest conversation that we had was at like 11 o'clock when we were eating something after we'd gotten home from a softball game. It was 11 o'clock at our table. And she said, what if I get into medical school and I decide that's not what I want to do? Mm-hmm. There was my end, right? There was the end. I had to, but I had to wait for that to come up. And so we talked about all of that and all these options and what do you like about that? And what do you, and ultimately she kind of navigated towards, she really wanted to have the more one-on-one interaction with patients. And we talked about nursing, maybe even nurse practitioner someday. And she wasn't even aware of that. Yep. So, again, I didn't bring that up. I waited until she asked the question, but then I was ready. And being in the position I'm in, of course, she had a little bit more knowledge of that. But we pulled up this system that we have that is like a career exploration quick quiz, and we did it. Yeah. And it helped her kind of feel like, okay, maybe that really is what I want to do. So some of what we want to do is help prepare parents so that when that opportunity arises, you're confident and ready to help navigate that conversation.
Sometimes we can navigate towards the finances, or we navigate towards and at the end of the day, 18 and 19-year-olds, if that's what we're talking about, they don't quite understand that quite yet. So although it can be a piece of our conversation, it's probably not always going to be the driver of our conversation. Because if somebody chooses something, only with that being the only piece of it, in my opinion, it's really hard to maximize the experience that comes out of it. At the same time, everybody's on a different path. So the other part that kids are dealing with today, and adults and people that are trying to go back to school, is they're comparing themselves to the person that works in the next cubicle that just started their graduate degree and they're a year in, or the kid that commits to go to a particular college 6 months earlier than what they are. And so kids feel this overwhelming pressure to kind of keep up with it a little bit. Everybody's pace is a little different. There's timelines attached. And I think that's why you get on campuses. That's why you visit. And that's why you get as many different campuses that fit at least a couple criteria that you want it, because they'll give you the timelines and the things that you need that help kind of push the conversation along. But don't compare your story to everybody else's story. You may have a different a different variable. If you're an athlete, it's going to be a little bit different process than if you're not an athlete.
Even though this may feel overwhelming and it's difficult, you're not in it alone. And there's people like you and I here at John Wood, where we can sit down and help you navigate that. You're not in it alone. And all you have to do is reach out. And yes, we are here to serve all of the families in our community.
And you're going to go to college, and the experience matters. I've said for years I learned as much outside the classroom as I did inside the classroom. And some of my best friends and people I talk to on a regular basis are only because I decided to go to college. So there's a lot of benefits outside the classroom. But I think the thing that we've got to continue to remind folks is you're going to college to get a career. It can be both. I mean, it can absolutely be the experience and the friends and the connections and everything that goes with college life. It can absolutely be that. But at the same time, don't lose sight that you're really going so you can get a job, have a career.
And we see it all the time. Students are more successful when that end goal is here, like when they're working towards that end goal and not just taking gen ed classes because they think they're supposed to.
Right. So you identify your why, you identify the value that fits your story, and then you get on campus, and then those people you're talking about, my biggest advice is you need to connect with those people. As the old guy we've heard forever, like it's not what you know till you know kind of deal. Well, college is an unbelievable place to be able to meet a lot of different people from we have multiple countries represented here at John Wood, and that's no different than most campuses. So you get to meet people from different backgrounds and different cultures, and you get to make new friends, and you get to connect differently, and whether it's a staff member or student. My biggest thing is once you go through the why and the value, and it checks some of the boxes you need to be checked, then just maximize the heck out of it through people, because I think that's the 25 years from now. Those are the things you're going to remember the most.
Getting a quality education does not have to cost a ton of money. It is possible. You have to be smart about it. It's just like anything, any other big purchase that you're going to make. You're going to do your research, and you're going to try to make sure that you are getting the best value for your money. College is no different. It's very, very easy to take out some big dollar loans. And sometimes a loan isn't necessary. It's an investment. And sometimes that's the option to get to point B. Yeah. But it doesn't always have to be.
The beauty of higher ed is you can change your mind. My youngest going to college, he's going to be a freshman. He wants to be in the medical field, whether that's physical therapy or whether it's doctor, whatever, nurse, whatever that is. My guess is he's going to be in that because that's his wheelhouse. That's what he's comfortable in. But he hasn't had any stinking idea of what he's going to be doing 5 years from now. Yeah. I think that's perfectly okay.
Yeah, and letting them know that it is okay to change your mind. It's okay to not know. It's okay to change your mind. There was some stat, I can't quote it specifically, but like 75% of students by their second year of college have changed their major at least once. The craziest parent questions you've gotten over the years.
Oh, man. Again, in our situation here, and a lot of my lens in the last 20 years has been athletically. I'm an athletic lens, right? So it's everything from can you get my kid to the NBA to what's his role going to be? So a lot of athletic stuff. But some of the other ones are everything from, hey, these are the requirements I have for my housing situation, and this is the price point, and those two things are completely different places. So some of it's just non-reality to it a little bit. But I think some of the crazy ones that I've had over the years have always revolved around guarantees. They wanted promises. Parents ask for like, can you guarantee my kid's going to graduate? Can you guarantee that he's not going to get a B? Most of the time, they come from a place of trying to control and trying to get guarantees and trying to get promises. And unfortunately, this is life. And life doesn't come with a whole lot of that.
As parents, it's so easy to want to fix things and do it for them because we want to help them. I think it's really important as we navigate this role as parents to not do things for them, but do things alongside them. I'm not saying turn them loose, be like, you figure it out. That would be nice. But it's the first real adult decisions that a lot of these students are making. So it is a big deal. It's important that we're there to support them, but we're helping them navigate that. And then, semester after semester or year after year, they're going to be navigating that on their own. So it's really important on the front end to just help them navigate that alongside them, not for them.
And some of that, so like to me, one of the easiest ways as a parent to avoid that try to avoid that. Is if you have questions, ask your son or daughter. Don't ask anybody else. That gives them some ownership of it a little bit. I think that helps kind of draw the line. So one of the biggest transitions for any college student that's coming from high school, so you're coming from a secondary scenario into a higher ed, is your time. Your time changes immensely. We always use in high school, most kids are in school for 35 hours a week, 8 to 3, 5 days a week. There's some level of supervision for those 35 hours. And as parents, we rely on that. We count on that. We rely on that. And then it can change lunch periods, early outs, all that kind of stuff. But you get to college, you're going to be essentially required to be in the building for maybe 15 hours a week. So now all of a sudden we've just created 20 hours of unsupervised time for our 18 and 19-year-olds. And so in this process, I think it's so important for us to give them some freedom, some ownership, because they'll own those 20 hours differently if they're used to mom and dad controlling the conversation, controlling the variables, dictating what it is. And those 20 hours, my goodness, are so critical in the success as a student and the success in the relationship, social perspective, and success, whether it's athletically or co-curricularly. Those 20 hours dictate that entire experience.
And we hope that everybody will come visit, because you get on campus and you meet people, you meet cool people like us, and you just get a feel for the people, the personality of the school. And that's important. Those are the people that are going to see you through, that are going to help you navigate once you're here, what that looks like. And so finding a place where you have people that make you feel comfortable and welcome, and that it's a place that you could thrive. And I truly believe that John Wood, that we are a place like that for the students that walk in the door. As you narrow down to the colleges that you're considering, it's really important to check application deadlines, scholarship deadlines. Scholarships, we talk a lot about affordability, and you've got the base cost, but then you also have scholarships that are available, financial aid, that type of thing. Scholarships can be a really important part of that process in making your option be doable, right? So pay attention to those. And some of the tips as a parent that you can give your student is, when you're doing those essays, make yourself stand out. Think about your paper in a pile of 100 papers. Everybody talks about this being an opportunity and blah, blah, blah. They all start sounding the same. So you have to find something that's going to make yours personable and stand out from the rest. It can't be cookie cutter. Probably shouldn't use ChatGPT to write it. Make it be about you and about your experience, how you're going to give back to the college, how you are going to be a part of the college community, not just what the college can do for you. It is so important to just apply for scholarships. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of scholarships that go unawarded because nobody applied for them, which seems crazy. So talk to the schools you're interested in, because there are school scholarships. There are high school scholarships. If you're a high school student, talk to your guidance counselor and get the list of scholarships that are available to students from your high school. Any kind, where you bank, any service organizations your parents or family is connected to, explore all of those connections and apply for the scholarships. Rob here at John Wood, he completely funded his undergrad and graduate with scholarships. Or if he did 10 scholarship applications in an hour and he got one of those, it was $500. He made $500 for that hour of work. And so scholarships are not the most fun thing to do. But if you look at it from that perspective, it makes it maybe a little less of a chore and more of like a part-time job that can help you pay for school. Majority of your experience is on the athletic side. So this process has a lot more variables for athletes. So give us just a quick overview about what parents of athletes need to consider in this process.
There's a lot, to be honest with you. If you want to play college athletics, so you want to continue your athletic career after high school, understand that if you get on a roster, you're 3.5% of the entire population of high school athletes that get an opportunity to play at college. 3.5% ever translate from high school to college athletics.
At all levels.
All levels. We're talking all levels. So some folks don't have to work very hard at it because physically they are seeing it differently. Some folks have to work hard at it. You got to get in front of coaches. You got to send emails. I hear, as the basketball coach here, probably get a dozen emails a week on kids from all over the world that want to come to John Wood to play basketball. Literally the world. And so when, a little bit like the essay piece of it, if you're going to write me an email, say, hey, I have an interest in playing college basketball, you better stand out or have something a little bit different. There better be a story attached to that. If you use those connections that you have your high school coach, your AAU coach, your travel coach, have them be kind of a reference in that process, because it helps you separate from that. I literally have a pile at the end of a month of kids and students and families that want to connect with us. And that's here. I can't imagine as you continue to be a place with a little more visibility. If you're introducing yourself to schools, but you want to go to school for free, those two things may not always align. And that's okay. Your investment may be the experience of being able to continue to put the shoes on and get in the gym or get on the field or whatever that may be. And then when you take those visits and you're talking to coaches, have a personality, ask questions, own that process a little bit. As coaches, we're going to get you in an environment and try to make you a teammate in a really short amount of time. And so we want you to have a little personality attached to you to be able to ask the questions. And then in the middle of that, get a feel of, can I play for that guy or that girl? Can I go to school here and be okay at a 5:30 a.m. September workout and we don't have a game for 6 weeks, but do I see myself being around that personality at the time that's going to be really hard? And that has nothing to do with the gear, has nothing to do with the facilities, has nothing to do with the level, has nothing to do with the TV cameras, it has nothing to do with anything else. It's literally, can I put myself in an environment in that personality and grind at a 5:30 a.m. September workout and walk away with it and go get breakfast with my teammates and want to come back the next day? That, I think, is a piece that gets missed in the athletic recruiting world because it's all bells and whistles and profile and status and all those sort of things. Those 5:30 September workouts are no fun, and you want to have a crew with you that you can get through that with.
All right, so we have talked about a lot of stuff important to parents in the process. So now what? Like, what's our next steps as parents to help our kids through this journey?
Just close your eyes and hope it all works out. No, I shouldn't do that. No. I think I'll go back to the word that you used earlier today, and that's the micro conversations. And that's again, as influencers, as people, right? Like whether it's parent, grandparent, neighbor, whatever that relationship is, I think the more conversations we have, the more you'll get a feel for what's really important to that student. We had a student athlete this past year that really never said his three things that were very important, that were his most important. But as we went through the college search process, we realized pretty quick what those three things were. And so we kind of navigated our visits and navigated our conversations towards things that fit those three things. So to me, as a supporter, if you will, a parent or whatever that is, I think your next step is in those micro conversations, really, really think through, allow them to decide, but really think through what are the three priorities. Because at the end of the day, everybody has a top 2 reasons or a top 3 reasons on why they make any decision at all.
There is a feeling that you get when you get on a campus, good or bad.
Yep.
And you know pretty quick.
Into both, yep.
And you know pretty quick. And so it's really important to visit campus. Do it as a family, at least student and a parent, or both parents, or those supporters, whether that's aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas, whoever that influencer is for that student, to come with them and experience that with them so that you can have those follow-up conversations. Yep. But it's really important to visit. You can get a lot of information off of a website,
yep,
but there is nothing like doing an in-person campus visit. And with John Wood, we're right here in your community. So come visit us and then go visit other schools and compare and ask questions and get a feel for it.
We never put the bad pictures on the website, do we? so the ones on the website are always the nicer ones.
Social media.
Yeah, that's right. So I agree 1,000%. Get on campus. Again, if you're from this community, use us as the comparative, because you don't know what you're comparing unless you have multiple campuses you've been on. Then come back to us and say, well, hey, I was on the campus here and they did this. How do you attack that? And odds are we'll have an answer for you on our personality and the way we can help you through that. But if you surround yourself with the right people, do the right research, and again, hopefully we're a piece of that puzzle. And we will help you navigate that in the absolute best, most honest, intentional way that we possibly can. And if we can help you navigate this next 2 years, let us help you.